The alarm tore through my sleep before my eyes even opened. I was on my feet and moving before my mind had fully caught up with my body, pulling on my jacket as I ran down the narrow corridor of Station Kestrel. Doors slid open ahead of me, one after another, each one letting in more noise, more light, more of the low, steady hum that meant something big was happening. I reached the command deck and the first thing I saw was the main screen, glowing with a shape that should not have been there. A fleet. Hundreds of ships, maybe more, sitting at the edge of our scanner range like a wall built out of metal and shadow. Grace Holloway was already at her station, fingers moving fast across her console. She did not look up at me, but she spoke fast and clear. "Daniel, they came out of nowhere. 10 minutes ago there was nothing on the long-range scan. Now there is this." I stepped closer to the screen, my chest tight, my mind racing to catch up with what my eyes were showing me. Ethan Marsh, standing near the far wall, let out a low whistle. "That is not a patrol," he said. "That is an invasion fleet." Before I could answer, the comm system lit up with an incoming signal, marked with a symbol none of us had ever seen before. I gave the order to accept it, and a moment later a tall, sharp-featured figure appeared on the screen, wrapped in armor that shimmered like dark glass. Behind it stood rows of other figures, silent and still. "I am Speaker Voran of the Kaldrath Dominion," the figure said, its voice deep and slow, carried through some kind of translator that made every word sound like it had been carved out of stone. "By order of the Dominion Council, war is declared upon your species, effective from this moment. Your station will be the first to fall. Your people will learn what it means to stand against us." The room went quiet, but it was not the quiet of fear. Nora Bishop, sitting at the far console, kept typing without pause. Ethan crossed his arms and leaned against the wall like he was waiting for a bus that was running a little late. I looked straight into the eyes of Speaker Voran and kept my voice steady. "Understood," I said. "Is there anything else, or are we done here? We have a supply ship due to dock in 15 minutes, and it would help if your fleet was not sitting in the flight path." For a moment nothing happened. The speaker's expression did not change, but something in the air seemed to shift, like the silence itself had grown heavier. "You do not understand what is coming for you," the speaker said, this time with less command in his tone and more confusion. "Your homeworld will burn, your colonies will fall one after another, and still you speak to me of a supply ship." I did not smile, but I wanted to. There was nothing funny about the moment, only something strange and almost sad about how much this being expected us to break, and how little it understood why we would not. "We have survived worse from within our own kind," I said. "Storms, sickness, our own mistakes, more times than we can count. We know how to keep going when things fall apart. So yes, I am worried about my supply ship. It carries food and medicine for people who are hungry and hurting right now. Your war has not started killing anyone yet. Hunger already has." The signal cut without another word, and the massive fleet on the screen did not move. The moment the connection closed, the command deck exploded into motion. But it was not panic, it was purpose. Grace was already pulling up defense schematics. Nora was contacting nearby stations to warn them. Ethan grabbed a headset and started running numbers on our shield strength. "We do not have long," Grace said, eyes fixed on her screen. "If they decide to move now, we have maybe 6 hours before the front line of that fleet reaches firing range. Then we use every one of those hours," I said. Word spread through the station fast, but there was no crying, no shouting, no chaos in the halls. People moved with quick steps and set jaws. Children were guided calmly toward the shelter decks by teachers who kept their voices warm and even, telling stories to keep young minds busy instead of scared. Engineers pulled up sleeves and got to work checking every system twice. In the medical bay, a woman named Claire Whitfield organized her staff into teams, preparing beds and supplies with the same calm focus she probably used on any ordinary shift. I walked those halls once, just to see with my own eyes what the station looked like in its first hour of war, and what I saw was not fear. It was focus. It was thousands of small hands doing thousands of small jobs, each one part of something much bigger. Back on the command deck, 3 hours in, the sensors picked up movement. A single ship had broken away from the main fleet and was moving fast, straight toward us. "Scout ship," Ethan said, watching the numbers climb. "Small, fast, lightly armored. Testing us, probably." "Let it come," I said. "Grace, keep the shield steady but do not raise them until it crosses the outer marker. I want them to see we are not scared enough to hide." The room held its breath as the ship grew closer on the screen, a small dark shape moving through the black. It slowed as it approached the outer marker, hesitating, almost as if it were waiting for something. "They are scanning us," Nora reported. "Deep scan, reading everything. Our defenses, our population numbers, our power output. Let them look, I said, nothing to hide. The scan lasted almost 2 full minutes, the longest 2 minutes I can remember living through, though nothing outwardly dramatic was happening. No alarms blared, no weapons fired. It was simply the tension of being watched by something that wanted to find weakness and could not. Then, without warning, the scout ship turned and sped back toward the main fleet. Grace exhaled and looked at me. "What do you think they saw?" she asked. "I do not know," I said. But whatever it was, it did not make them feel better. An hour later, another transmission came through, and this time Speaker Voron's face carried something new, something that had not been there before. It looked almost like uncertainty. "Your people show no signs of retreat," he said. "No evacuation ships have launched. No distress calls have gone beyond your local network. Explain this." "Because we are not leaving," I said simply. "This is our home. We built it, we live in it, and if you want it, you will have to understand something about us first. We do not run from hard things. We work through them. That is what we have always done, long before your fleet ever found us." The speaker studied me for a long moment, his sharp eyes narrowing slightly, as if trying to read something written beneath my words. "Our histories tell us that fear is what keeps a species alive," he said. "Fear teaches caution. Fear teaches surrender when surrender is wise." "Maybe," I answered. "But fear can also freeze a person in place while the roof comes down on them. We learned a long time ago that surviving means doing the next right thing, over and over, no matter how scared you are underneath. So if you are looking for fear, you will not find much of it here. You will find people getting ready, calmly, one task at a time." The speaker did not respond right away. When he finally spoke, his voice had lost some of its earlier weight. "We will send word to the council," he said. "There will be a pause before further action." The signal ended, and this time, the fleet did not simply sit there. Slowly, ship by ship, it began to pull back, retreating from the edge of our scanner range, moving farther into the dark from which it had come. Nobody on the command deck cheered. Nobody clapped or shouted in relief. Grace let out a long breath and rubbed her eyes. Ethan sat down hard in his chair, the tension finally leaving his shoulders. Nora quietly closed the channel she had opened to warn the neighboring stations, sending a short message instead to tell them the danger had eased. For now. I stood there watching the screen until the last of the fleet's lights faded from view, and I thought about everything that had happened in those few hours. A war had been declared against us, loud and certain, meant to break something inside us before a single shot was ever fired. And instead of breaking, we had simply kept working, kept caring for each other, kept doing the ordinary things that ordinary days are made of, because those ordinary things were exactly what we refused to let go of. I do not know if the Kaldrath Dominion will return. I do not know if this was the end of something or only the beginning, but I know what I saw on this station during the hours when the sky was full of ships that wanted us afraid. I saw people helping each other stay calm. I saw children listening to stories instead of crying. I saw workers checking systems with steady hands. I saw a whole community choosing, again and again, not to give in to fear, not because we were fearless, but because we had learned that fear does not feed anyone, does not heal anyone, and does not fix anything that is broken. Later that night, after the fleet was gone and the alarms had finally gone silent, I found Grace still at her station, staring at the empty stretch of space where the enemy ships had been. "Do you think they will come back?" she asked. "Maybe," I said. "But if they do, we will still be here, doing what we have always done, getting up, showing up, taking care of each other." She nodded slowly, and for the first time since the alarm had gone off that morning, she smiled. "Then I suppose we are ready," she said. I looked out at the dark sky through the wide window of the command deck, thinking of every hand that had worked through those hours without pause, every voice that had stayed steady when it had every reason to shake. "We always have been," I said. And somewhere far out in that same dark sky, a fleet that had come expecting to break a frightened people carried home a very different story, one about a station and a species that had simply refused to flinch.